future as mediums of intercultural dialogue. Allow me to introduce our distinguished panelists. Here, first on my left, a warm welcome to Mrs. Tina Vodnik, representing the Ministry of Foreign Affairs as delegated head of the Department for Africa and Middle East. Hello. Then we are also honored to have Professor Abdelhamid El-Zoheiry, the president of the Euro-Mediterranean University, so-called EMUNI, here in Slovenia, in Iran. Welcome. Moving to my right, we extend a warm welcome to Mrs. Tanja Tuma, the current president of the Slovenian PEN Center and a board member of PEN International. I think that you were recently elected as international secretary. Lastly, heartfelt welcome to Mr. Mohamad Abdul Munem, a Syrian writer and publisher of Palestinian origin, who've been living here in Slovenia since 2016, if my information is accurate. So I'm truly excited to have such a diverse and knowledgeable panel contributing to our discussion, marking the Day of Mediterranean. So let's start. Of course, maybe we should emphasize that tonight we will focus on the beauty of this region, emphasizing the power of art and dialogue. Ms. Tina Vodnik, before becoming a link, the sea was long side considered as an obstacle, as noted by the French historian Fernand Braudel. The Mediterranean is now perceived more as a connection than an obstacle, and this perception also applies to Slovenia, our little country situated in Central Europe, on the Balkans, and along the Adriatic Sea. So you know that as a European member state, Slovenia is part of the Union for Mediterranean, and 2 years ago it became also a member of the Euro-Med9 group. So how does Slovenia, with this beautiful word love in its name, spread positive messages of cooperation and dialogue in this Mediterranean region?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much, Ms. Podkrižnik, for an amazing introduction to this panel and also to all the panelists around the table. Slovenia was always a Mediterranean country, of course. We are defined by our geography, and I think we are very much proud of it, that we were so much connected to the cradle of the civilization, like Nina said at the beginning, and you know, where the source of the philosophical thoughts are. So we try to nurture that actually also within the Ministry of Foreign and European Affairs. And I see, and we look at that through two angles basically. What we say that we are not only connected to the Mediterranean through our sea and through the climate, but also through the kitchen, architecture, and this is actually the main premise of our public diplomacy within our ministry. So we are trying to promote Mediterranean culture with the exhibitions, with promoting, let's say, books, organizing fairs, and so on. And the second is, of course, the policy, right? Because we want to be very much in the center of, let's say, work where the Mediterranean is discussed. We basically are thoroughly connected to the Union for the Mediterranean, and as you said yourself and Nina before, we are celebrating 15 years of 15th anniversary of Union for the Mediterranean, and with some of my colleagues here in the audience, we will remember the day when the Union for the Mediterranean was established. It was in 2008, and Juan knows, because we were both serving in Brussels, and of course we were very happy and committed with my Spanish colleague that this actually came into the European Council's conclusion, and the president of EMUNI was saying how much he did before that happened at the EU level. So we were very much trying to promote our active role already there. And of course, EMUNI, Euro-Mediterranean University, was also part of the UFM. We wanted to be one of the key pillars of the Union for the Mediterranean, and I think our active engagement of our, let's say, foreign policy started there, really. You know, of course, second pillar is Med9 countries, and of course, we've been very active also in this format. What we want is for the European Union to have more focus on the southern neighborhood. We have very clear ideas what we want. We want more funds to be also allocated to the southern neighborhood. We want that kind of partnership like the European Union has together with the eastern neighborhood policy, so with the eastern neighborhood, also to go to the southern neighborhood. So we want better institutionalization of EU policies towards southern Mediterranean, right? And also, what we were thinking is, why wouldn't we have more joint, let's say, letters, joint ideas, you know, that we would raise more awareness with other European Union countries. So that was also one issue. And also, as you know, Mediterranean is very much was affected by the natural catastrophes, especially this year, but also previous years. So we suggested to have a joint alert system established through the Mediterranean countries. So overall, I think we are very much active, but there's always, you know, some room to do more. And I think together with my colleagues, we are, of course, analyzing and discussing a lot what more we could do. And I hope that today's discussion will also, let's say, offer us some, you know, avenues and paths to, let's say, enhance our presence in the Mediterranean through in Brussels and also elsewhere.
Thank you. Mr. Abdelhamid El-Zoheiry, we always emphasize the importance of use and the powerful influence of art in shaping perception, opinions, and values. How is EMUNI currently promoting all these positive messages, also messages of art? Because today we are talking about, we would like to talk about art, poetry, and literature.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank the organizers for this important event, and I'm very happy to be here. So EMUNI, or Euro-Mediterranean University, is also a young institution. It's only 15 years old. And in the age of universities, 15 years is like a toddler. And a toddler has the advantage of being learning all the time. Because adults, as we grow, we stop learning. But kids, especially the young kids and toddlers, they are learning all the time. And this is what we are doing at EMUNI. First, EMUNI has been said, is 15 years old, so we also celebrated this year our 15th anniversary in June as the Union for the Mediterranean, and I have had the honor and the privilege of accompanying EMUNI in 10 of these 15 years. In 2015 we started opening our programs, and I'm happy to say that most of our students are coming from the South Mediterranean. So they are coming from a different culture, and this is actually at the heart of the mission of EMUNI, that we want to have the Mediterranean and EMUNI striding the Mediterranean as a bridge of cultures between the north and the south of the Mediterranean Sea. And what I can say that in our programs, we don't only teach the subject matter, whether they are studying, for instance. I'd like to here highlight a master program called Intercultural Business Communication. And so, mind you, the word intercultural. They are studying languages, they are studying culture of different languages, and they are also experiencing the culture in different ways. So when our students are here, they actually there are days where they cook for themselves and for inviting the employees at EMUNI. We take them to different parts of Slovenia and different parts, neighboring countries like Italy. They go on side visits to different parts, experiencing music, experiencing culture. And I have to say, for me, I don't see really a big difference when it comes to culture, because I'm eating here what I'm eating back in Egypt. I'm also listening to similar instruments, like the mandolin, for example. This is an instrument that is shared on both sides of the Mediterranean. But what is interesting is that our students who haven't had the privilege of traveling so much before, they definitely have immersed themselves in this culture, and this is very good, because if we start at this age, and even younger is even better, to have this cultural exchange, we will grow as friends, and we will look at what unites us and not what separates us. But on the other hand, also my Slovenian colleagues who work at EMUNI, what an interesting observation when they started also experiencing our students, and one of the comments that I heard was, oh, but they are like us. So you see that this exchange, whether it is in both directions, whether they are coming here meeting Slovenians, or Slovenians are going there meeting students from the south of the Mediterranean, this mobility is very important. Mobility of youth cannot be more highlighted. And I believe that EMUNI, with our resources, we are doing a good job at that. And I think that we need more initiatives to facilitate and enhance the mobility of young people through educational and cultural programs. And I will stop here in the interest of time. Thank you.
Tanja Tuma, we are aware that PEN International has been promoting literature and defending freedom of speech since 1921, if I'm right. So PEN International works to protect, to shelter and resettle authors, writers at risk. However, it's evident that many national PEN centers succumb to politics, unfortunately, but let's put it this way. What's the noble power of PEN in the Mediterranean region, and how interconnected are all these PEN centers in our region?
Thank you. I'm very glad to be here as well. Thank you so much for inviting me. PEN is one of the oldest organizations of writers, and our charter begins with the words, "Literature knows no frontiers." And that is what we do. We try to create spaces for dialogue where actually words may be obstructed by the impossibility to speak freely, to write freely, to publish freely. We try to create those spaces, and actually in 2016, when Mediterranean was not, and is even still not, very always looked as a positive seaway towards friendship, towards cooperation, but sometimes is also a grave of poets and writers who died there, trying to come to Europe. We try to create, to help them, and there was a huge campaign in 2016, which was entitled Make Space, and this campaign was aimed at helping writers who want to live elsewhere, not necessarily Europe, but who want to live, write, create, and also reach a public to tell their stories. Because in the end, we were reminded by the Ministry of Foreign and European Affairs that we are in the cradle of civilizations. But what is this cradle? It's stories, it's poems, it's art. So I think PEN is trying to support this art in every possible way.
Okay. We have here Mr. Mohamad Abdul Munem, a man of words from this region. You used to be a publisher, you used to have a bookstore, if I'm right, a publishing house in Aleppo. Your parents originated from Palestine. So you came here in 2016. And you were, or you still are, somewhat of double refugee. you say, something like that. Yeah, yeah. We have here also his book, poetry book, Ljubljana, so these 21 women from Ljubljana. It was published here in Slovenia. I think that between the Mediterranean region and poetry, there has always been a kind of pact, because the sea invites dreaming, voyages, and poetry too. It is a journey, it is a return to. So how has Mediterranean identity, and especially your poetry, your literary expression, been changing from shore to shore?
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you, my friend, for coming. The way from Aleppo to Ljubljana, it's not very far. I'm walking just 42 days, and I am here. And all the Mediterranean, you can walk it for 1 year. This idea, give it to you, give it to me, we are very near. Our culture, it's very near. It's not far. We have in the poet, we have just 16 different rhythms. It's 100 years ago, we stopped to write with these 16 different rhythms for poems. When Europeans come into Middle East, to Syria, to Lebanon, to Palestine, and this time start to learn a little bit about other rhythm, and we changing we give it its name for the new poems, freedom poetry. What does that mean, freedom poetry? It's outside this 16 rhythm first. Next, we can do our dream inside and our rhythm. It's not very far than the rhythm here. Like Mr. Prashan, he writes sonata. Sonata, it's very close to our rhythm. And we're dancing about this. We have same. It's dabki. No, we have another, something different dabki for dancing. It's very, very near to understand the geography for the Mediterranean, and we understand the culture. First book I published it from one writer, he write novel from Spain. And he write all this novel without any point. It's 1969. I'm published this. The writer, his name, I don't remember, but he write this novel without any point. After this, the writer in Syria, they start to write novels, try to write novels or some stories without points. It's also freedom to be outside this point, to stop it us when we have our sentences more than to stop in this point, we write everything. Yeah, the culture, it's like around this table, not very far. That's it.
Vodnik already mentioned the importance of soft power. So we talk about these days climate diplomacy, I don't know, economic diplomacy, music diplomacy, cultural diplomacy. How important are all these diplomacies for Slovenia?
Yeah, thank you. Well, Slovenia is not a big superpower, luckily. So we don't have like responsibility on this end, but we do have a lot of soft, let's say, powers, meaning that we concentrate a lot on what we can, how we can promote better, let's say, even our Mediterranean culture, right? And you know, I always say that diplomats are hard to die, you know, let's say orators and narrators, and they never stop speaking. And this is what they are promoting, you know, the dialogue. And they will, when everything is already, you know, when people are already, you know, in conflict and, you know, and there's a feeling that we cannot promote anything. I think diplomats are still talking behind the scenes. So I think that is something that defines us, and I think here we are never, you know, let's say, stopping our work. Of course, soft power is important, and I think we are doing a lot. We have some cultural attaches on some of the most important embassies. We are focusing also our work on, let's say, promoting our Slovenian musicians, let's say, travelers. I just returned from Japan, where I stationed for 3 years, and we had a very good exhibition about Alma Karlin, who traveled actually alone 100 years ago. She already visited Japan, and actually we diplomats, we found this story. And so that story, that is how we were connecting Slovenia to Japan. And nobody in Japan knew that we had a Slovenian, you know, a woman who was actually so adventurous that, you know, just took the road and just left without any money. And so she was gaining money on her own and so on. She did an amazing job. And she introduced Japan to Europe after she returned from her long years journey. So I guess, you know, our actually task is to find those stories and then to present these stories in a context. And I think here our ministry is doing a lot, and we are also, of course, promoting it. One other thing is that we are also working on the sports diplomacy. So we know the sports ambassadors in Slovenia, and of course, whenever we got Luka Doncic somewhere, of course, diplomats are all around, and of course also, you know, diplomats from other countries are very happy to join us, you know, on this occasion. Also, bee diplomacy is important, you know, because we try to foster biodiversity. You know, the importance of having, you know, safe and I think we can do a lot. You know, we are promoting our policies through bee diplomacy. So that I think is important. My idea is also to establish during the day of Mediterranean reading, you know, reading, how to say, day. Like we had it, I participated in Tokyo, and we had a day of Francophonie. So we had to, you know, between diplomats, we had to share the timings so that we read the poetry or, you know, the literature the whole day long. And I think that would be one of the nice examples, you know, to promoting our Mediterranean culture. But I was just thinking, you know, also music, I believe, is very important in this respect, and I just read it in the US State Department. They have this Global Music Diplomacy Initiative, and they started in September 2023. And this also, I think, is one of the good, you know, venues to follow. So we still have a lot to do. Like I said at the first round, we are very, very, very active and eager to do more.
What are we doing tonight is really amazing, because we are trying to spread a message that art is a universal language. Umberto Eco once said that the language of Europe is translation, and we can apply this notion to the Mediterranean region as well, can't we? So what initiatives or actions is EMUNI taking in this particular field?
Thank you very much for this important question. I would like to just very quickly comment on maybe Slovenia is not a superpower, but it has a very strong soft power, which is the power of beauty. Because Slovenia is a beautiful country, and I think we can notice every year how people are coming back to the Bled Strategic Forum year after year, all top politicians in Europe. And I remember very well Minister of Higher Education, when he came to Slovenia and he visited EMUNI, and then he looked at this very nice old building. I have to promote EMUNI a bit here. Trevizzini Palace, which is a palace built, a Venetian-style palace from 1821. This is where we are situated. And he looked from outside and he said, "This is your university?" I said, "Yes." He said, "The students, they come here?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Would you take me as a student?" So the power of beauty really, I mean, Slovenia has a lot of beautiful places, and I think this is how we can also attract. And young people, they really appreciate it. Thank you very much for the question about translation. And as you said, art doesn't know any boundaries, and being a scientist myself, there are two things that I know that don't know boundaries, which is art and science. Science also knows no boundary, and this is how we can get, even during the Cold War, the Soviet and American scientists working together. Because really science recognizes no boundary and art recognizes no boundary. For us at EMUNI, translation is very important because it is also one of the aspects of cultural diplomacy that we are trying again, and culture and science diplomacy are two faces of one coin. I can highlight here one or two initiatives. In 2016, if I'm not mistaken, we co-organized a conference with the MLN Foundation in Piran called Translation for Dialogue. And this was quite an important conference. And I believe this conference also resulted in very good proceedings and some quite strong recommendations afterwards. At EMUNI we are ready, and I think this is an area where we can very much cooperate with some countries who have sources for it, resources I mean, which are the Arab Gulf countries. We are ready to act as this bridge to translate some work of Arab literature into Slovenian or into other European languages. And I've been talking with the Mohamad Abdul Munem Foundation in the Emirates, and they are ready to fund such initiatives. So I think this is one food for thought to think maybe we can start in this area too. Thank you.
Ms. Tanja Tuma, it's crucial to stand by writers, by authors that are victims of various situations and to transcend national identities. PEN International and the International Cities of Refuge Network, so-called ICORN, collaborate significantly. So can you provide some examples related to Slovenia and the Mediterranean region?
Thank you for the question. Yes, actually, what we do at PEN, they do at ICORN. Although ICORN is a network of cities, and Ljubljana is also an ICORN city, I was looking through the network today, and there are only two more in the region. One is Lyon in France, and the other is Barcelona. So there is a lot of space to help here. What is this network? This network, ICORN, closely connected to PEN, and actually also sometimes we cooperate with publishing, any other way, or advocacy work, protective work, etc. An author finds himself or herself in a dire situation. This situation can be war, can be jail, can be persecution, maybe not yet done, maybe still somehow in the air, and they have to flee the country. So Ljubljana has had now, I think, 10 residents, because the city, it is a city of refuge since it was the capital of the World Book Capital in 2010. And we've had people from Africa, from Iran, Puyesh Azazadin, we heard his story. We have now another guest who is a famous journalist, Hamed Einechwand, and he writes also for our newspaper. and we have Samir Sayek, we'll hear his poem. So I'm very happy that Slovenia is such a welcoming country that people decide to stay here. And it is really important to offer this, this gate to freedom, because otherwise journalists we know are taken to prisons and sometimes rot there for decades. I will not, just in the honor of this wonderful event, I will not state the countries where it happens, but it is really difficult to follow these stories and to do advocacy work, and sometimes we get broken, not to think how they are broken there in jail. And we write letters, we write postcards, so that they know they are not forgotten, and their fight is also our fight, because freedom of expression is the base of every democracy.
Mr. Mohamad Abdul Munem, the Mediterranean obviously has thousands of faces, and you are familiar with several. So which one do you prefer, and what does home mean to you?
My home. When I'm left Aleppo, this is the best home for me. The first, I love it there. But when I am in Turkey, I'm check little bit about Aziz Nesin. Aziz Nesin is the best writer in Turkey. I'm looking for Turkey from ISIS Aziz Nesin, or Egypt. I'm looking Egypt from Najib Mahfouz, Tawfiq al-Hakim. In Greece, first island, I'm found there Zeus and Europa. Europa, one lady, she's from Syria, left to here with Zeus on Toro. I found it her there. This another home for me. When I am here in Slovenia, what is Slovenia? I don't heard about this country before, but step by step, after 2 months, I found my friend here. I published his book there 25 years ago. I published a book for Vladimir Portol, Al-Mut, but I'm translated from English to Arabic. My home when my friend. My friend here in Ljubljana, I actually a lot. It's a drugi home for me, second home for me. Maybe the last one. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that we should stop here. Thank you all for this great discussion. And now let's delve into the poetry of Mr. Munem, I think on the path of Europe, no?
Mohamad Abdul Munem is a Syrian publisher, poet, and writer of Palestinian origin who lives in Slovenia now. Andrzej Rožman described his life story in the book, 3 Memoirs Between Haifa, Aleppo, and Ljubljana. We will listen to his poem, On the Paths of Europe now. On the Paths of Europe by Mohamad Abdul Munem. On the paths of Europe, I walk barefoot on my soul, myself, and the phoenix, and Zeus, the lord of the Greeks. Because of the delicacy of the sense, our feet do not tread the ground, so as not to touch the souls of those who were petrified and became stones. We carry the hymn on our shoulders to declare in its highs, open the doors, O you with iron defenses, open the doors. Everything will start anew. Do not bombard us with these sounds of metal and explosions of whiteness. Is all this blood not enough to bring the soul to its humility? We are the carpet of earth. and from all the colors of the threads. Is all this beauty invisible to the masses? Open the doors. Everything starts anew. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Everything starts anew. And then the sounds of metal screams, if you want to be born again, you have to die first.